coming back to the table. We do have a quorum around the table, so we'll kick back into it. Your Worship. Thank you. All right, so we're going on to now onto item number 10, the annual plan, other rates and fees. The purpose is to recommend changes to the rating policy and fees for adoption as part of the Council's annual plan. We have officers here, Mr. Andrew Duncan and Eric Wind, so thank you very much for being here. And well, I just hand it, are you going to make a short, is there a presentation or just a chat to it? Okay, all right, so Andrew, it's the court's with you, the ball's in your court.
Good afternoon. This report recommends that you adopt changes to our rates and fees and charges that were consulted on alongside as part of the annual plan for 25-26, and these are issues that weren't covered in the Mayor's proposal, but they are reflected in the budget. We're happy to take. I'd also note that all the recommendations in regard to the Business Improvement District targeted rates have been approved by the relevant local boards. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Very good, okay, thank you. I might just ask if somebody would like to move this. I'll seek a mover and a seconder. Move it by the Mayor, seconded by, anyone want to second this? Yeah, okay, thank you, Glenn Wilcox, thank you, Glenn. All right, and I'll open it up for questions. Are there any questions? And then we'll have comments following the questions. Councillor Walker.
Sure, so I've got a question around the waste charge. We've got a zero waste aspiration, right?
Sorry, what was that question again?
We have a zero waste aspiration, do we not? So we're promoting people to zero waste. It's a simple question.
Certainly it is, and I'll ask Justine from our waste management team if she can respond to you.
Okay, I wasn't after a long-winded answer to that question. I'll answer it myself. The answer is yes. I worked on that. I worked on that strategy in the 2010 term. So bear with me, Mr. Chair. Yet we actually target people. We charge people for putting out something, irrespective of whether they've got something to put out or not. So the person that fully complies with zero waste isn't incentivised. Is that fair?
So I'll ask Justine to answer in the context of how the council has decided through its consultation a couple of years ago to fund its waste management services in order to best achieve the goals that you've set. Justine?
I understand. Bear with me, Mr. Chair. I mean, the answer to that is that it's not fair, but let's not go there. I don't need a long-winded answer. And similarly, when it comes to the food scrap...
Point of clarification, Chair.
Who's that? There is a point of clarification.
That's Richard. My point of clarification is, are we going to let the officers answer questions if they're being asked to officers?
I'm just trying to speed things up, Mr. Chair.
That's all right. We probably, you know, if you're going to ask those questions, the officers probably have to respond, Wayne, so just take care with your questions.
I'll be careful. So we've also got the food waste collection.
Stop it.
Where people that don't use the service, such as me, I've got a hungry bin, I process all my food scraps at home, I'm charged. And so, coming to my question, why aren't we giving some thought to actually incentivising people that do the right thing? We say in our response that we're not considering it because it wasn't an option, but it is an option that a huge number of people have asked for. Surely we should be considering this, particularly given that we've got the technology to actually charge people for what they put out. So when are we going to revisit the issue so we've got something fair, something that actually complies with our zero waste, and might reduce the amount of waste that people are putting out.
So if the council wished officers to reconsider that, it could ask us to do so. As it wasn't consulted on this year, it's not an option that we have available to us at this for this coming financial year, noting that the contracts have been signed and we don't have an alternative funding source for that in place beyond the rates that you've consulted on. But if you did wish that to be reconsidered, then officers could do so if so directed.
All right, thank you for that. Justine, did you want to add? Did you want to add anything to that? But the councillor seems satisfied with that answer.
No, thank you, Chair. Good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have some other questions. I'll leave that for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Josephine.
Thank you, Chair. My question is around the Onehunga bid and the officer's recommendation that the annual plan provide for a lower targeted rate to be set for the Onehunga bid. The local board did approve the lower rate as well, approve endorsing the lower rate, but in doing so, the OBA presented yesterday that it will lead to their financial ruin because they will still have the expanded area but the lower rate. So I'm just seeking, advice from officers on their recommendation, noting that it will lead to potential financial ruin for the OBA.
So Alistair Cameron will be able to help with that question, Councillor.
Through the chair, apologies for not being there in person. Yes, the recommendation from staff will leave the Onehunga Business Association trying to serve a larger area but with a reduced targeted rate. The Onehunga Business Association is an independent organisation. Their members through the special general meeting have requested that level of targeted rate, and it is now incumbent on the executive committee and management of the business association to look at their expenditure and the services that they offer and look to see what they can afford to deliver within the budget available to them, or to look for alternative sources of funding. Basically, they have to look to cut their cloth to fit the revenue that they would get from this targeted rate and other sources of income.
Okay. Do we think that we have some responsibility in this because they followed the council bid policy and now they've ended up in this situation? They can't afford, to carry on regarding the dis-expansion process. So does council take some ownership of the situation that they're in, considering they followed the bid policy?
I take the point, councillor. They followed the council policy in establishing or expanding the bid, but we can't escape the fact that the membership through the special general meeting have changed their mind to what they earlier agreed and have asked council for a reduced level of funding. That's an issue for the business association and its membership to resolve now, and it's not a council issue because they've complied with both the expansion process, but also their decision to ask for a reduced rate is their decision to make, and it's not a council issue.
Okay, thank you. Speaking order is Councillor Watson, followed by Councillor Dalton. So, John.
Question. It's a question, yeah. The question on the refuse rate, and it goes to the public feedback that's identified here, particularly amongst Rodney residents, where 53% did not support the proposal, and certainly anecdotally, particularly in this area where there's a lot of elderly or retired people who don't put their rubbish out as much. sometimes only once a month, sometimes even more, they're going to be financially disadvantaged on that. Was there any modelling done in terms of the people who are actually very efficient with their waste processing, who are going to end up paying maybe nearly $100 more? I understand the point about the majority, but I'm looking at the specific people, and quite often people who can at least afford to be paying more money.
So I'll ask Justine if she can help with that question, please.
Thank you, Andrew, and through the chair, thank you for the partai. Can I just check you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So just to note that there are options for smaller bins, and part of the implementation process for this rollout is to make sure that our customers are informed about those range of options so that we can recognise the different needs of different households. And as per the advice, those costs vary according to size as well, so that we can recognise households with smaller waste needs.
Yeah, my modelling is on the smaller bin, the 80-litre bin, and my rough calculations show that for someone who transfers across to that and who puts their rubbish out once a week and pays a throw will be $92 worse off. So yeah, they're going for the cheapest option, but they're going to be considerably worse off. These people know exactly how much it costs them on a yearly basis. So the reason I bring that up, because there was some talk amongst some of the waste officers that they were looking at a way that could perhaps be addressed to be a bit fairer. I don't know, scanning or microchip or something. Are there any investigations, and if so, you know, what's a likely outcome of that?
Thank you again for the partai. So yes, we are continuing to explore options for low waste households to make sure that we can support and promote waste minimisation as one of our key goals. But at the moment, we don't have formal proposals to put forward, so it's not part of the decision that you're making today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dalton.
Thank you. My question was also regarding the Onehunga Business Association. Is it true, Alistair and Jill, that in addition to losing $600,000 in income, which is more than 50%, that they will also need to outlay approximately $250,000 to, I don't know whether it's called a de-expansion, but they have to go back out just to test that that is actually what the businesses want to do.
So at the special general meeting, a resolution was passed asking the executive committee to look at the, we do need to come up with a word for it, de-expansion. And yes, they will need to go through essentially the full process that they went through to expand, but in reverse, which will incur some costs in engaging with their members and undertaking a formal ballot. Whether it's $250,000 or not, I can't comment on. Maybe Jill, who is online, could give a better indication of what the likely costs of that are, but there will be costs involved. And again, that flows on from the decisions that the members made at the special general meeting.
The chair, most of our bid expansions and establishments cost $40,000.
Thanks, Jill. I had another question, but I think I'll just leave it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions? Anyone online? Okay, any comments, councillors, before I put it to the vote? Yep, thank you, Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And just a brief comment on the issue that goes to the refuse targeted rate, because I think it's important that this be put on the records. Overall, the weekly users of the service will be better off. Okay, so that's the first thing to put on the record. There'll be quite a significant financial advantage to most people that just go across to the 120, 140, 240 litre bins. They're going to be better off. But as you see in the feedback from the consultation, Mr. Chair, and it goes to your ward as well, that it's not supported by Rodney residents. 53% of people didn't support the proposal, while 35 did. And one of the main concerns identified in the paper for that was that the pay-as-you-throw was a better model. And in the case particularly of people on fixed incomes, they're incredibly efficient with their waste. They're doing all the right things, more so than anyone else in Auckland, and a number of instances only putting out their bag, once a month. Yet out of everyone, they're going to be the ones who are worst off. And by my calculation, even if they go to the 80 litre bin, they'll be, $92 worse off. And the people, unlike some around Auckland, are very aware of every dollar just to get by. So it is a little disappointing, while acknowledging, I think, the improvement overall, and to the service that will be better off. It is disappointing that very identifiable group have not had some sort of allowance that I think surely technology could allow in this day and age, and then you've got everyone happy. This has been getting brought up by Councillor Walker for quite some period of time, and the investigation has been ongoing, and as yet there's obviously no solution to that. So it's reflected in the feedback to the consultation. It's reflected in the stance the local board has taken, who have also opposed this. So it's an unusual situation to be in, Mr. Chair, where there are clear advantages probably to the majority, but there are equally clear disadvantages to a very identifiable minority. So obviously, as the ward rep, I'll have to take that into account when I come to vote. Thanks.
Very good, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker.
Sure. So I'll be voting against the refuse targeted rate charge. That's something that I've been very consistent over for some years. Initially, when we put up the scheme around the waste plan, the idea was that it would be pay as you throw. That is, you'd have a bin, you'd be charged based on when that bin was picked up. And we have the technology to do that. For goodness sake, we're even looking at time of use charging. We recognise cars and we charge them. But we can't sort out something simple around bins. And the reason is, frankly, 1, we're lazy. 2, the easiest thing is to collect the money. And 3, we don't appear to be concerned about minimising
there was an
waste.
accusation against all of us and staff, stating that everybody's
I used
lazy.
the word we.
Yes, lazy.
I said we.
All right, just
And I'm
just
objecting
just
to
hang on. Just
I'm
hang on,
entitled
hang on.
to an opinion,
Yeah, all
Mr.
right, just
Chair,
hold it.
without being
That's all right.
subjected to a frivolous point of order.
Is there a question?
This is speeches, not questions.
I apologise.
I'm up with the play.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So
we have staff
I'm
sit
assuming I can continue, Mr. Chair.
What
speaking
I
to the
might
item.
do, Wayne, is just take the opportunity to ask the staff to step back from the table, because that might just be confusing. Well, some of the councillors, yeah, and that's my. I should be more onto it there. So sorry, Wayne, just break the flow there, but
Yeah,
keep going.
so we have a situation where we actually have the technology to do the right thing. We have the technology to identify whether the household has a small, a medium, or an extra bin, and they have 2 bins. So we have the technology to identify somebody that doesn't want a bin. And there are people that don't want a bin, and there are people that don't want a food waste bin. People that compost, people that have worm farms, including New Zealand designed technology like the Hungry Bin, that actually produce a product that has value, that they can use, that doesn't involve transport and the emissions associated with that, doesn't involve sending the stuff off to Reparā or the like and then having to find some way to turn it into something. So we should be incentivising these sorts of things. A superannuitant, somebody living alone that doesn't generate much waste at all, is effectively penalised. The person that is zero waste, for example, like the likes of Joe Polisher, who I knew, that was fastidious around zero waste, he didn't generate anything, and rest his soul, he's not with us now, but people like that, they're penalised, and no incentive for people that do the right thing. So we have the technology, we have a zero waste strategy that should be actually encouraging people to generate zero waste, and here we are penalising them. And yes, as others have mentioned, some people may be better off, but there are some people who are worse off and some people who are significantly worse off. So we shouldn't be just applying a lowest common denominator principle and frankly a mechanism that I think is lazy when we can do better. So that is my position, and I will continue to speak to it, and I would hope that the officers actually come up with some information so that we can follow through on something that sends the pricing signals that are in accord with our strategy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? I'd like to just make one with regard to the Rodney Local Board around the topic of waste. 4 local boards supported the proposal, including the Rodney Local Board. However, the Rodney Local Board expressed concern that the rollout of the rates funded waste bins to Rodney may not encourage waste minimisation, the point that the previous speaker was making. Supported the proposal. Yeah. Councillor Newman.
I wasn't going to speak to this, but I will briefly speak to it now. I do commend Councillor Walker on the consistency of his long-standing advocacy about pay-as-you-throw and his scepticism about rates in relation to rates collection, refuse collection. But I fundamentally disagree with that, because I believe that there does need to be a base level of service that provides choice and convenience to all households. And the reason why we have not moved to pay as you throw is the technology offering that was mooted some years ago in relation to the barcode and scanning at the lift on the bin when you put it out isn't available. I pay my taxes to fund the public health system to provide orthopaedic surgical procedures such as replacement knees and hips, but I hope never to have to use that particular service myself. But I still pay the taxes because I think that there does need to be a level of service here in the health system. There does need to be a level of service in relation to waste collections. Councillor Walker has raised a reasonable point in relation to the food scraps collection. I have a concern, an enduring concern, that the direction of the policy to try and encourage people to use the food scraps bin is to move from weekly to fortnightly. But that is a policy debate that will be had, not today. So I'm prepared to go along with this, the recommendations, but I would hope that if Councillor Walker and others are here in the next term, we can have a pretty comprehensive discussion about aspects of this, because there is a great deal of scepticism from a lot of people in the community about the direction for which we're going with respect to waste minimisation. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foley.
Kia ora, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to speak briefly about the bids in Hunters Corner and in Mangere East, and I want to commend our bid team because I know they've been working over some years, including when I was still on the local board, with both of those bids, and especially with the Hunters Corner bid. And I am sad to know that although our teams, the bid team as well as the local boards and the local board services teams have been trying to work with the businesses and the bids to help them be compliant, that they haven't gotten to that stage. So I'm speaking in support of the whole recommendation, but I just wanted to commend the team because I know they've worked really hard over many years to get them across the line. And unfortunately, because of internal issues that we just haven't been able to help the businesses to get over, we're at this point. And it is sad, but I also agree that we shouldn't enforce a targeted rate on businesses when the bid is not functioning or the bid is not delivering a good service for their members. So I wholeheartedly agree. Kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any more comments? Okay, the motion's been moved and seconded, so I'll put it to the vote, and then I'll take any feedback on votes against certain items. So all those in favour, say aye. Against? Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay, all right. So we'll record Councillor Walker, you're against which item?
A2.
A2? And Councillor Watson, A2. Councillor Turner, A2. Any others? Okay, I'll declare that carried. Well done. Sorry, Councillor. Okay, thank you. Got that. Okay, so we're up to item 11. Is that right? Okay. Yeah, so I think it's fairly straightforward. I'll move it. Could I have a seconder for that? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Foley. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Item 12, extraordinary business, so there's nothing there. So that brings us to conclusion before we go into confidential, is that correct? So, look, Councillors, I'm suggesting we have got kind of an important item to sort of work through in confidential around Q Theatre. So I might just move us into confidential prior to lunch. Let's have lunch and then we'll come back and deal with the confidential item, okay? So, okay, so will you move it, Wayne? Yep. Moved by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, so we'll break for lunch. What do we usually take, 30 minutes? Okay, well, is 30 minutes too long? Okay. All right, 30 minutes. We'll come back here at 1:30.